Besarion Ivanes Jughashvili, commonly known as Beso, was born around 1850 in Ddlilo, within the Tiflis Governorate of the Russian Empire, in modern-day Georgia. Not much is known all about the family of Besarion Jughashvili. His grandfather, Zaza Jughashvili, who was born around 1780, was involved in the 1804 Mutu-Lety rebellion against the Russian Empire, which had annexed eastern Georgia in 1801. Zaza was possibly of Ossetan background, with historians suggesting he came from the village of Jeri, near modern-day South Ossetia, though this claim cannot be proven. Zaza escaped the uprising and moved to Ddlilo, a village about 9 miles away from the capital, Tiflis, now Tbilisi. He worked as a serf for Prince Beda Makabli, tending to his vineyards. There he had a son, named Vano, who in turn had 2 sons himself, Georgi, and Besarion, who thought to be born around 1850. Vano died young, likely before he turned 50, while Georgi worked as an innkeeper until he was killed by bandits. With no family left, Jughashvili moved to Tiflis and worked in the Adelkanov shoe factory. Though he had no formal education, Jughashvili was literate, which was highly unusual for Georgian workers at the time, and was multilingual. It is likely in Tiflis that he learned Armenian, Azerbaijani, and Russian, in addition to his native Georgian. Around 1870 he was invited to move to Gori, a city about 47 miles from Tiflis, and make shoes for the Russian soldiers stationed there. Gori was a small town at their time, with roughly 7,000 residents. The majority were Armenian, with a large number of Georgians, as well as small numbers of Russians, Abkhaz, and Ossetans. It grew in importance in 1871 when a branch of the Transcaucasus Railway connected the town to Tiflis and Poti, a major port for oil export. Besarion Jughashvili set up a shop in the Russian quarter of Gori, close to their barracks. In 1872 or 1874, he married Ekaterine Keek Gelades, a peasant girl. Keek was described as an attractive freckled girl with auburn hair, was from the village of Gambaroili near Gori, and had moved to the town as a child after her father died. Her and Besarion had 3 boys, though the first 2, Michael, born February 14, 1875, and Georgi, born December 24, 1876, died aged 2 months and 6 months, respectively. Their third and final son, Joseph Jughashvili, was born on December 6, 1878. He would later become known as Joseph Stalin. After the death of Michael, Jughashvili started to drink heavily, which only increased after the death of Georgi, and that the marriage began to deteriorate. Historian Stephen Kotkin has also suggested that rumors of infidelity by Keek took a toll on him, more so after the birth of Joseph, with several men suggested as his potential father. However, Kotkin does say that, whether Keek was flirtatious let alone promiscuous, is unclear. And that, reliable evidence about the possible liaisons of the future Stalin's mother is lacking. And says that Besarion Jughashvili was most likely the father. Jughashvili's shop was initially very successful, employing up to 10 people as well as apprentices, and the family initially enjoyed a high standard of living. A former apprentice would later say that he frequently saw butter in their home, which was an expensive delicacy for most Georgians. But Jughashvili's drinking, made worse by a Georgian custom that business was paid in part with wine rather than money, had adverse effects on his business and personal life. Polish writer and political commentator, Isaac Ducha, felt that Besarion Jughashvili's inability to lift his status likely contributed to his drinking and frustrations. This idea is echoed by historian Robert Service, who noted that Jughashvili did not adapt to make the European-style shoes that were popular at the time, and instead kept producing traditional Georgian styles, and also suggests that the rumors about Keek were also a major influence on his drinking. Jughashvili became violent and routinely would beat Keek and Joseph, and often fought in public, earning the nickname of Crazy Beso. Jughashvili's business suffered from his drinking, and he was eventually forced to give it up. The family also lost their home, and began staying with others for short periods, with 9 different addresses over a 10-year period. In 1884, Jughashvili left the family and moved to Tiflis. He returned to his old job at the Adelkinov factory. He also sent some money to Kik, as well as offers to reconcile, but this didn't work. Jughashvili was upset when he learned that Kik had enrolled Joseph in school, instead hoping his son would follow in his footsteps and become a cobbler. This led to a major incident in January 1890. Joseph had been struck by a carriage, seriously injuring him. This is how Stalin got his withered arm. Jughashvili returned to Gori, and brought his son to a Tiflis hospital, and after Joseph had recovered he was apprenticed to the Adelkinov factory. Kik was adamantly opposed to the idea and used her connections with the church to bring Joseph back to Gori, where he would continue his studies to become a prize. This was the last proper contact Jughashvili had with his wife or son, as he cut off contact and financial support when Joseph left Tiflis. Soon after Joseph left Tiflis, Jughashvili seems to have left the Adelkinov factory. He briefly made shoes in a stall at the Armenian Bazaar in Tiflis, but his actions after that are uncertain. He did keep in contact with Joseph, occasionally sending him handmade shoes. He also had one final role in Joseph's life. In January 1900, Joseph was arrested for the first time, on account of his father. When Jughashvili left Ddlilo, he wasn't removed from the village rolls, and still owed taxes as a peasant from the region. It's not clear why Joseph was arrested instead of his father, who still lived in Tiflis, but Stephen Kotkin suggests it was a police tactic to send a message to Joseph, who had begun his revolutionary activities by this point, but still hadn't taken on the name Stalin. In August 1909, Jughashvili went to the Mikhailovsky Hospital in Tiflis, suffering from tuberculosis, colitis and chronic pneumonia. He died on August 12, 1909, in Tiflis, around the age of 58 or 59. His cause of death was listed as cirrhosis of the liver. Only one person, a fellow cobbler, attended the funeral, and he was buried in an unmarked grave in Tel Aviv, in Georgia. The location of his grave was unknown until 1972, when Candid Charkviani, their former first secretary of the Georgian Communist Party, led efforts to find and mark the grave, though it was not confirmed if Jughashvili's remains are still there. Charkviani had also looked for photos of Jughashvili, at one point bringing several to Stalin to confirm their authenticity, but after looking at them Stalin wasn't able to confirm if any were his father. There is apparently only one photo of Besarion Jughashvili, though it's never been confirmed if it Besarion